to further the discussion along these lines, do you get a sense also in your analysis that the Kabul government has essentially been shut out of this dialogue process, and that is something which is not entirely positive overall, or at least from the perspective of the Kabul government?
Well, without a doubt, going back to the statements by the National Security Advisor, Dr. Hamdullah Mohib, whether or not they represent the views of President Ashraf Ghani, we cannot say. But what we can say is that they certainly express the frustration and anger that many Afghans feel, both within the government and outside the government, at the continued marginalization of the elected government of Afghanistan from these talks between the US and the Taliban. You can't blame them for feeling angry and frustrated. But these talks have been essentially shrouded in secrecy and basically mired in controversy since they began.
Okay,
because they are essentially being held between Afghan opposition politicians and the US government and the Taliban.
Okay, but here's the thing. This entire process essentially begun after President Trump said that he wants to get out of Afghanistan. And he got Zalmay Khalilzad to begin the process of talks with the Taliban. Now, the Taliban have stuck to certain positions. And so therefore, in order for the talks to proceed, the Americans had to sort of agree to the fact that the Taliban are not going to talk to the Kabul government in the first instance. But what Zalmay has been saying, and that's what he said at USIP also, that the idea is to bring it to the next level where the Taliban are prepared to sit with representatives from Afghanistan, and that's the point where the Afghans are going to decide among themselves how exactly they want to proceed from that point onwards. So I think, in a way, given the fact that there are certain intractable positions, this was the only way forward as far as the Americans were concerned.
Well, exactly, as far as the Americans were concerned, that this was their objective, to pull out, and the first step was to start talking to the Taliban. But that meant making concessions that some have considered perhaps premature in order for those talks to take place. At the moment, for instance, the sticking points appear to be the ceasefire and timetable for US troop withdrawal. But frankly, while these talks are going on, the Taliban continues to wage attacks across the country, continues to take more territory.
Yeah, because there's no ceasefire, as Farzad said, that there is no ceasefire. He obviously also objected to the sequence of this. But since there is no ceasefire, the Afghan security forces continue to operate against the Taliban, and the Taliban continue to attack the security forces.
Yes, that's what's going on. And meanwhile, the Afghan government continues to be left out. Yes, he was in Kabul. Yes, he met the president for consultations. To what extent those talks will be influential in the next round of talks, will have influenced the outcome of the next round of talks, remains to be seen. It's just at the moment still optics. There's also other factors to consider. There's other controversial aspects to these talks. The fact that we've had statements come out reassuring Afghans and the world that an agreement with the Taliban would not necessarily mean going back to the dark days of Taliban oppression, notably for women and human rights issues. But all we've been hearing are words. We don't really have anything that inspires